Everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. It's your boy dGon here alongside Yamato and Jamada after a late, long 6-game LCK day, the second one of the year, back to back. We had to wait 35 weeks to get a 6-game day in the LCK, and then we decided to do a show after a 6-game day. It's all good. I'm
You're
really
welcome.
glad to see you guys as we had a lot of not even just matches, but things that require conjecture. They require folks with expertise that can kind of see the angles. And that is where we're going to start with KeSPA. Because KeSPA went ahead and picked their Asian Games roster to much chagrin to all of the fans of any Korean player that didn't get selected, including Gen.G's Arnold, who has been going to town against KeSPA. That has been a fun watch there. So this is where we start this week's episode. It is Everything is on Fire with KeSPA. So the roster is out for the Asian Games, but it's not just that. Also, like, China potentially might not be sending a team because of some regulations. Either way, we'll start with KeSPA. It is in the top lane, Zeus. At jungle, Canyon. In mid, it's Zeka with substitute Faker. At bot, it's Gumayushi. And at support, it's Keria. I think one of those is unanimous. I think any other one of those, it's an argument. It's a huge argument here. KeSPA has put out a list of the different credentials and criteria that they use to select teams. Select players for the team. They also said they weighted players that played in KeSPA Cup to kind of force players to make this prestigious preseason tournament more prestigious, even though it's not that prestigious. A lot of teams usually just send their academy players so that their main teams get a rest. Last year, or this year, and this year's version was a little different. There were many players that played in it. But when we look at this roster here, Yamato, what jumps out of you in terms of missing, with the understanding that a gold medal here prevents a player from having to do military service?
I do think that the military exemption portion of this has been has been just an afterthought, considering a lot of the players that already are exempt are returning, right? In Keria and Zeus, of course. So it seems like that is on the back burner, which I think is a good thing, right? The strangest thing that stands out instantly, I would say, is just Canyon, right? But in order for us to understand why it's strange, I think it's important to break down the criteria, right? That was mentioned as well. So KeSPA mentioned that they have cited and looked at stats, and they have cited tournament results over the last 2 years. I don't know exactly what the cutoff point was, so I don't know how much they counted, of course, the current ongoing spring split. But they also chose to exclude MSI, which is a very, very strange thing to do. Because if anything, that is just a big, finger in Gen.G's face. Because they are the team that would gain they are the players and the team that would gain the most out of course, including MSI, which is very strange to do. An additional layer of the process is that they added that the players must have played KeSPA Cup, which is an additional layer that is also strange, because Viper, in 2 circumstances, in the first one in 23, thought that he needs to play in Korea in order to be a part of the selection, because players make their decisions based on, of course, Asia Games. Like, it's such a big deal in terms of how your career is going to go, in terms of how much of gravitas it has, in terms of course, just representing your country. It's like there's a tremendous amount of pride in country and representing your country in Korea, of course, culturally and in terms of what the history is and so forth. And Viper went back to Korea, didn't stay in the LPL because he wanted to participate. And then it was fine because Kanavi and Ruler went to, of course, the Asia Games roster. And the selection back then, just for additional context, was pure and simple. Koma did the selection right for the players. And I believe he was the head coach and he chose the players. And it was completely based on who just performs the best, which you clearly see based on the list. Zeus, Kanavi, Chovy, Ruler, Keria, and then Faker as the substitute, of course, for the team. That is a gangster lineup in 23. That's a 2023 JDG roster. So it was very straightforward. But the reason I brought this up again was because Viper back then thought, okay, I'm going to go back to Korea to try to participate here. Then Ruler took it. And then he went over to the LPL because he thought it didn't matter. And then it turns out it does matter because LPL players weren't considered, as far as I understand, for this selection process. And if you look at stats and you look at results, that's the weirdest part of this because it's inconsistent. If those are your criteria, then you haven't applied them evenly across the board, because I think it's easily arguable that Owner has been better than, of course, let's say, Canyon. It's easily arguable that Kiin has been a lot better than Zeus, especially if you look at last year or even the previous years. Like, sure, Zeus had a fantastic Worlds in 24, but leading up to the World Championship, he had a very quiet year. And I could even make the argument that Kiin was better than Zeus at that World Championship that he won, because Kiin was quite elo held with his bot lane, like Lehens and Pays, like getting farmed by FlyQuest, and Kiin finding like the game-winning play to break Faker's ankles on Ari, and then his Ashe just walks in and gets Skarner at melee range, right? That's like the arguments for Kiin and Owner fit the criteria that they've presented so much better. The selection process is just so strange because it seems inconsistent and incoherent. Even though for like Gumayushi, for Zeus, I can make arguments, but the arguments they've made make no sense. So it just means that the selection process is extremely, extremely flawed. And I think that's where everyone has their issues. Because I think regardless of who you choose, people are going to be upset that their favorite player is not playing. But the selection process is just very, very damn odd.
That's the frustrating part. I think this could have been avoided if KeSPA just didn't share stats, like a lot of the time you want transparency from KeSPA to be like, how does this make sense? If you say it this way with no transparency, I think it saves them a lot of the blushes, because KeSPA is a Korean government organization, right? I got to see a lot of it, just side tangent, when I went to go see a PUBG pop-up in like near Gangnam. It's pretty awesome. It looks like a realistic, like kind of like complex within PUBG that you would like play in. They had like props, they had all this stuff, but it was super empty. And they had so many workers there. The workers kind of looked like they outnumbered the people that were there at the time. And to me, that was a reminder of like the KeSPA money that they have. There were a bunch of like collaborations with like Korean cultural like pottery and PUBG in their shop, because it is the pride and joy, one of the pride and joys of KeSPA. It's PUBG because it is a Korean-made esport. And so that is kind of showing the power and the type of people that are there over at KeSPA. Maybe it wasn't really well thought out. And so this point that you bring up in terms of the stats and the consistency of how it was applied, Yamato, is what Arnold was talking about. Arnold put out a massive tweet in defense of Kiin, has 1.1 million views already and bajillion like likes and all that stuff, criticizing the criteria that was already put out, and then following it up today with, hey, let's talk about MSI and why the criteria wasn't counted. And in those stats from the last 2 years, Kiin was by far number one, including KeSPA Cup. He's number one if you include it. He's number one if you don't include it. He's number one no matter how you chop the numbers up over the last 2024 to 2026. So, Jamada, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this, both the roster itself and then kind of this debacle that's come from it.
I mean, it's just such a strange decision to apply what effectively feels, I don't know, like, can you call it like a half measure? It's like, oh, we're going to do this, but we're not going to do that, right? We're going to take into account Worlds, we're not going to take into account MSI. And it's actually funny when you think about it, because what's the discussion that we've had around the format between these two tournaments? And typically, to a degree, the difficulty difference in actually winning these two tournaments. So that's one part of the argument. You could also, it's something I've not tracked heavily, admittedly, but it's not something that I've seen a lot of people take the stance of, specifically with MSI. But yeah, the selection itself is just odd, right? You could really pick it for, like you said, there's maybe one unanimous, the rest there's an argument to be had. Whether it's BDD Cars, whether it's obviously Kiin. What's Canyon doing? Canyon's lost, man. Canyon's not been Canyon for a while. We could start having those discussions now. I think it's okay to do that. So I like everyone has said, like Yamato was saying, it's just odd that we would land in this situation where, okay, you're not taking into account arguably the most difficult tournament to actually participate in and win.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, half the people here already have their military exemption. So if that's an angle that you would maybe want to take, where it's like, hey, maybe getting some of our big stars that don't have military exemption, potentially pushed up into the list to play at the Asia Games so they can get that. That's healthy for everyone involved. That's just the fact of the matter. So I don't know. It's just mind-boggling how this is the decision that they land on. And like you said, dGon, the fact that they've gone ahead and given us the criteria, they said that they've levied it on stats. You know what I remember actually very heavily is there was a point where I can't remember if it was Molecule or just one of the stats guys on Twitter was doing, it's very like old FIFA or old PES coded, like the pentagon of stats. Or not the pentagon, the octagon of stats. And it's like,
I think it was Taz, right? Was it Taz?
I want to say, yeah, it was one of them. Whoever it is, shout out to you. But I just remember like Chovy being the mid lane guy, and he's just the full octagon of stats, and everyone else is just chasing that. And I'm sure there are probably examples where if you follow that, that specific stat criteria to a very strict degree, there's probably players this year or like within the last 2 years that have similar shaped 8-sided stat octagons, right? Yeah, just odd. Very, very, very odd that this is the direction that KeSPA have gone, and then also the reasoning. There's too many ways to pick it apart. Actually,
that Pentagon made Chovy look like Michael Vick in Madden 2004, where he was everything. If you're KeSPA, Yamato, let's take a step back. You're KeSPA. What is your priority? What is your criteria, and who is your roster?
I think the number one priority should be to win, especially this year. This year, the Chinese team is most likely going to be better than this Korean team. The only drawback to the Chinese team is the fact that they can only send 3 people from the same roster. But if the roster turns out to be Bin, Chun, Knight, Gala, Vampire, that is a roster that beats this roster. And if that is the outcome, you're kind of screwed, because you don't get any of the benefits that you are going to aim for, and you'll be heavily, heavily scrutinized for the process that was put in place. Because winning, of course, needs to be the number one utmost priority. And it's just strange, right? Because if Canyon got in based on what? Regional performances, then it's like, obviously, we should also highlight for anyone that doesn't know, Chovy decided not to play. So he was a part of the selection. He decided not to play. He has some hip issues, apparently, and he's taking some time off after the regular year for him. So if Canyon got in, there's no way Kiin doesn't get in. If you are going to apply, like the only reason Owner was excluded, it seems like, that was because, we don't want to make it too obvious that we're recreating the ZFGK roster. That's the only reason. So if I'm sitting there and I want to win, I have to actually consider players that are less popular. Because, in all honesty, another player that needs to be mentioned in this conversation is Tarzan. I can make a roster out of the less popular players that are insanely good. If I put Kiin, BDD, Viper, and Tarzan on a team with Carrier is undisputed. It's untouchable. And that is a monster roster. I'm not saying they're not popular, but they're not as popular as some of these guys, right? And it's not that I can't make arguments for Zeus, Gumayushi. You can say, oh, we want to put Gumayushi and Carrier together because they have synergy. They've worked together for fucking 22 years. We're going to put them together. They're going to play good. Gumayushi's in good form. That would be like very rational. But then it's like, then they put out the arguments and it's like very, very silly. They should have just kept quiet. And I think in terms of mid lane, I would have sent in BDD for sure. If Chovy's not going, I'm sending in BDD. And then I would send Zeus and Kiin. I would send in Zeus, Zeus and Kiin as my sub. I understand the angle for Faker too, because regardless if he's playing or not, just having him in the room is going to be very, very good. Especially when the roster is newly formed. And you have maybe people that probably they know each other, like they played against each other a million times. They know each other. They probably like hung out, after hours. They, they drank some soju bombs. They were chilling. For sure they know each other. Maybe they play Maple Story together. For sure.
Yamato knows the ways.
For sure, there's some connection there. But having Faker in the room, I can get it. But not having BDD, that's going to be dangerous. Because what if Zeka and Faker are not in good form? Like these are players that are out of form at many parts in the year, and then Knight walks up, and Knight is having
hell of a
like you can argue that Knight is the best player in the world right now. That's the easy argument you can make for Knight. And that matchup, like I would sit there and tear my hair out. Like I would want to think I need to beat the Chinese team no matter what. That should be the number one priority. All the noise that is happening now doesn't matter because the noise will be way worse in the future if we actually lose. So that would be just my priority. In jungle, I think Honor and Tarzan are way more fitting than Canyon at this point.
Yeah, I like that roster. So one more time: Kiin, Tarzan, BDD, Kiin and Zeus, Tarzan, BDD,
Kiin, Zeus, yeah.
Viper,
we can keep Gumayushi, honestly. I can keep Gumayushi. I don't even mind that. I think Gumayushi right now is the best performing ADC in the LCK. And I think the Carrier Gumayushi argument is easy to make. And if you have Zeus and BDD as your top side, together with Owner, like you already have like the building blocks, just a mix of that. But if you send any ADC that is Gumayushi, Ruler, or Viper, you're chilling. You're chilling.
Jamada, how would you go about building this, and what would your roster be?
Say Kiin, Kanavi. I think Faker's too valuable to not have in the room, man. I whether you have him starting or not, for me, I wouldn't out of BDD. But I just think you can't not. We've seen the difference. We've literally seen it with T1 when he's there, when he's not there. Then yeah, Gumayushi. I'm not so hot on Ruler after the last series against T1. We'll talk about it obviously in a little bit. But he's still Ruler at the end of the day. I'd land on Guma and Carrier.
Yeah, on Pog State, they asked us to make our rosters. I went with Kiin, Owner. It was Chovy, but then if it wasn't Chovy, it was BDD. And then I had Viper Guma as my two subs with Carrier. Like, for me, it's get the ZOFGK roster their military exemption. Like, what more does Guma need to do to be able to get that? I mean, like, I know that's the argument in terms of like, this is why he's so good. What more does he have to do to prove it? I don't think it works there, right? Because we are constantly evaluating how good he is at that point that we're talking about him. Whereas this is more of prestige. And I think here in Korea, my fiance was just telling me, being a male and being forced to go to military is a part of life. And if you get that opportunity, you get those years of your life back. You get so much of life. It just means so much here to someone. So I think as much as I would want it to be 100% win first, I think it's win with 1A with how do we balance the military exemptions as 1B. Like, I think it's a lot closer to me, to the point where it may affect like the straight up best 5, but because I would have sent Chovy, right? I would have been like, okay, Chovy, Carrier, those are my 2 that are returning, and then let's make sure we get one of the Viper, Guma, Kiin kind of thing, because Zeus already has it. That is my thinking, because the Kiin and Zeus gap is smaller, plus Zeus already has it. Like, it's not like, hey, Zeus is better than Kiin by far, but he already has it. It's like Carrier. Like, Duro's close. Delight's having an okay year, but it's by far like Carrier here. So that was my roster, and the 1 sub was going to be in the bottom side of the map, and you can bring Faker as like a Asian Games honorific.
Do they have like an Olympic flame or something? Let him carry it.
Like something like that. That's what I'm saying, dude.
Let him hit the gong or shoot the arrow or whatever is happening. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, whatever it is, just let him. Just make a statue of him in the center of the arena. Whatever it is, just praise him.
So it's not officially out yet. It hasn't been officially announced by KeSPA. It's been leaked and publicly let out because there's a 10-day appeals process. Maybe because it's a government agency, a government organization. And so it was rumored that Viper flew back from China to come to Korea to put in his appeal. So it's not quite done yet. We'll see what happens if Joe Marsh will put one in, which many T1 fans have clamored for. If Arnold will put one in, which Arnold said he'll do whatever Kiin wishes. But he's been crusading for him on Twitter, so I believe Arnold will obviously protect his player and do what the player wants, but also is trying to get on the court of public opinion. So it is still a little bit of an ongoing drama here with the Korean team, given the fact that roster you named, Yamato, is scary and will have a ton of potent firepower moving in Asian games. For all of you at home, let us know what your Asian Game Korea roster is and why. Because people put out a roster and then they're like, yeah, it's so obvious. It's like, let's talk about why and what you're prioritizing here. Because there's some people that are like, oh my God, they deserve the exemption. I'm like, yeah, but like every player would be great if they got the exemption. It is so rare. It is so rare. And such a high chance for it to happen here in Korea, given the caliber of player that we have, given the caliber of esports ecosystem that's here. So it's just like a very unique situation. Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, make sure to like and subscribe. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Staying in the LCK, because we had ourselves 2 certified banger matches back to back. Like Saturday and Sunday were great in the LCK. After some snoozers, we had some suffering in the earlier part of the week, but some greatness near the end. We had Gen.G versus T1, which broke LCK viewership records. Then we had KT versus Hanwha Life Esports in the battle of the last time they met. Hanwha Life Esports gave KT their first loss. So let's dive into it. This week's certified bangers. It's Gen.G T1 and KT Hanwha Life Esports. All right, let's start there with T1 versus Gen.G. I've been crusading for a nickname for this series. What do you if you guys have any ideas off the top of your head? Like, is it the El Korea Clasico? The El Clasico of LCK? I'm not 100% sure yet what I want to call it. Red and gold, the gold red match. This is the marquee match in the LCK and what feels like in LoL Esports every year.
Bro, it's the El Clasico, bro. It deserves it, bro. Give it, bro. What else is the El Clasico?
I do feel like across sports/esports, we've started to overuse the El Clasico term, but I feel like it's more in a term of endearment of like this matchup is just you have to watch it. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to be a fan of the 2 teams. It deserves your attention.
It's always a banger. It's like it doesn't matter how shit the teams are playing or how bad they are in their form or if it's whatever. It's always gonna bang. It's always gonna hit hard. And I think that's a very important detail of a classical. But coining a new term, that's not my dGon. You're way better. Just give it a name, bro.
I'll figure it out and I'll call it on the next broadcast. And if someone has a
golden red shower. No, I'm kidding.
It's too late. It's out there. Let's dive into the match itself. Game 1 was probably one of the best games of the year. Game 2 was the comeback that probably made the record be broken in terms of viewership. It was the unique draft here from Chovy. He pulled out, was it Rumble mid? Which was awesome to push into Faker's Twisted Fate. So a nice little flex there. Canyon prioritizing the Skarner as well. What did you make of this series when you think about when you go back and think about it here, Jamada?
I just want to touch on, because normally I'm very funny with champion picks. I want to touch on that Rumble pick for a second, because I feel like there have been times where it's been good mid statistically in solo queue into a lot of random majors, and TF is one of them. So it was really cool to see Chovy do that in game 1. And also, just gotta be like hyperbole baby, Chovy unironically in this game dropped some of the best angled equalizers I've seen Rumble players drop. And he's a mid laner. So top laners, get your shit together, because Chovy, surprise, surprise, could put you out of a job and he doesn't even main your role. But honestly, I think given our, kind of our pre-series read, for me, it was always going to be about Faker either basically just playing the enabler role and how well he could do that to unlock his bot lane. And I feel like, and driving that into a mid-game lead. And it's funny because the games didn't play out in the way where T1 got those leads, but it felt like that was a lot of the plan for T1. Specifically, I feel like you could see it in game 1 with the priority on TF in game 1. And then obviously the game 3 draft, the Mel, Camille, Cassio, not inherently a champion that's going to get you priority, but a very, very strong skirmisher was into Panther Talia. So it's like, as long as it doesn't get comboed, it's probably going to win the skirmish over time. So I feel like T1 came in, honestly, with the correct read. Not because it was my read as well, but because I just feel like you're not going to, frame 1 to Nexus blow up. The likelihood that you out-team fight Gen.G, the likelihood that you play the map in the mid-game better than them is just lower. You need to bring the fight to them. And I feel like they were doing that a lot. Game 1, they were diving sides really aggressively. Top side, they were looking, bot side as well, though it, I think it was the first dive at around, or the second dive at around 9 minutes. They overstayed their welcome a bit. It allowed Gen.G to come down and collapse, and that was really what spun the game back in Gen.G's kind of control for a long time. But yeah, I just feel as though randomly T1 just wanted to wake up this series, and they're for me a little bit more than normal. But yeah, throughout that game 1 specifically, I just feel like they got a little bit too carried away, wanted to make those decisions about dives and about making quick plays. And I think there's a fine line. There's a very fine line between being calculated and kind of rushing through plays because you feel like you're running out of time. And I feel like this is one of the few times where I'm looking at T1 on these timers. I'm thinking they're making the wrong decision a little bit too much in this game 1 specifically.
Yeah. I called it out on the broadcast, and Faker with 6 deaths, dying on the side lane. He leads the league in solo deaths. What did was adamant. He was like, no. He's dying, but these are the right timers for him to make the play. It was just Gen.G knew that he was going to make the play, and they rotated their resources down there. Yeah. And to go from that series, which was intense, to then the Nongshim BNK Fearex, where Taeyun wins, throws the jersey over the shoulder. It was awesome. The whiplash of how fast and smart that game was compared to how clunky and slow and just like, all right, I'm gonna punch you. All right, we're punching. All right, we won. The next series was just very, very obvious. It was a thinking man's game. Our thinking man here, Yamato, what did you make of it?
Honestly, I'm concerned about Gen.G because ever since first stand, they've continued down this path of just kind of hoping that their solo lanes are going to just play better than their opponents. And I think that the pace of Duro and Canyon catching up to the global metagame, they are just not doing it fast enough. I think that Kiin and Chovy are playing very well, but they're not playing so well, especially with the meta shift that occurred, because we saw the KeSPA, we saw the Twisted Fate, we saw people testing, like we saw fucking Rumble Mid. With the meta shift, you can't expect like a level of proficiency where they're just going to dumpster some of the best players in the world. And as Doran and Faker are improving, and as long as they are stable, the games will also be stable. Because the only real game that was lost was when they overreached on a dive. But the fact that those dives were happening, I don't know how many times the Gen.G bot lane got dove this game, this series. It was like maybe 8, 9, 10 times. And one time it went wrong when Ezreal got a double kill on the fight back, and that was the game they had like a very strong teamfight composition, so game condition didn't matter as much. It's just that the synergy between owner and carrier ever since last year, because last year with the addition of Mata, it really, really changed. The only thing T1 was really waiting for was owner to perform again. This split has been very quiet. And I think that's the main thing that was the big change up, was that owner was actually like locked in and he found the timers, and he actually leveraged the fact that his bot lane is actually just dominating every bot lane really hard. He can pull his support to anything, and you can see that, like, obviously T1 is inspired by how BLG played, like with their champion choices, with their gameplay. BLG really figured out the meta in a beautiful way during first stand, and this has been true still to this day. There's so many parallels across, the world of League of Legends, where you have teams that just don't have strong jungle supports, and that being the bottleneck of the team. KC being another great example. I always call them like the budget Gen.G of Europe, that have players that can lane super well, team fight super well. But if they don't get those big blowout leads and they actually have to play a macro game where the support needs to put vision down and they need to connect with the jungle, this is always where G2 just break their ankles. Doesn't matter if G2 is behind 3k or they're ahead 3k. The mid game and late game always plays out the same, but in the in-between, they're just catching people off. And back now to the initial point of Gen.G, what worries me for them is the fact that the teams around them, right, that they're contesting the MSI spot, Hanwha Life is doing this better and better. Like the light and like everyone's bought into the Kanavi method. So Kanavi is already on the same page as this. KT, if anything, their best games is always when Kuz is driving the game and they have a strong 3v3 mid-jungle support and they are dominating the game through that. But sometimes they can just lose based on the just sheer fact that they are losing the bot lane, especially now with aiming being sick. But this is already such a big qualifying point to beat Gen.G. So, in all honesty, with Gen.G's position now and the fact that it's unlikely that they make top 2, I think it looks unlikely for them to actually make MSI, because I would favor T1 over them right now just because of owner and carrier synergy and their ability to drive the game. And of course, T1's bottleneck is how good are their solo lanes going to play, but I do think that the meta is landing in a place that seems a lot more comfortable for them after the patches.
Yeah. I really love the way that you described the speed of the game and how it feels like Canyon and Duro are a little bit further behind. For me, it's T1 are playing too fast in their losses. It's what we saw today against Kiwoom DRX in game 2. It's just when they win, they steamroll. When they lose, it looks like they're playing with their food and be like, we'll be able to get back. And it's just the hubris that's there, especially, and it doesn't matter who you are. Because at first it's like, they do that against bad teams. No, they do it against everybody. They don't. They're 3-time champs. The greatest player in the world is on their roster. They've been together. Their contracts are signed through 2029. Like, they don't care. And then the only guy who isn't signed through 2029 is the crazy one on the top side of the map who just inted 0-8 or whatever it was on Varus, because he also doesn't care. That's how Doran's built. So this T1 team and this Gen.G team, it's just such a great clash of the different styles, and both of how they would be if they were at full potential and where they're at now. it is fun to see. It's fun to watch. It's fun to track, which is why it was one of the bangers of the week. Let's move on over to KT and Hanwha Life Esports, where these are the guys leading the league, which is so wild to say that it's not Gen.G and T1. It's led to this whole conversation about, LCK versus LPL, where the strength of the team's at. It's going to make the next international very fun. It's going to make EWC very fun. But this one was a lot more like of a fist fight. KT has had a very surprising revelation at the bottom side of the map with the man who left and returned back aiming. Aiming is playing so well. He's on top of it. He's been there. Safety valve effort has had a lot of credit for that as well. But also, finally, Cuz having himself a good series against the main driving force against of Hanwha Life Esports in Kanavi. Like, Cuz ran the jungle on the Pantheon, was all over the place, on the Skarner, right spot, right time, and slowed down Kanavi on the Nocturne, who was trying to make plays happen. And also on the Hanwha Life Esports side in Game 3, back to the draft here, Jamada, it was the Zeus, Olaf top lane, Gumayushi, Draven bot lane, both in the same team. And Gumayushi and Delight get double killed within 4 minutes. Aiming is 4-0 at 4 minutes on Lucian. And it's GG. What did you make of this series in the drafts?
Yeah, I mean, the Game 3 draft from HLE is just, it's wishful thinking, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
it's like when peak Damwon would just roll into games and just draft the best possible lane, but not really care about the comp because they were just better. And I don't want to say it oozed that level of confidence, but that's airs of what it felt like to me. Yeah, I mean, two teams that are, obviously, like you said, HLE, their main engine is Kanavi, and the fact that they've bought in so well over the last couple of weeks has been a pleasure to see, especially because I think some people are, to a degree, forgetting this HLE lineup is one of the ones that almost everyone unanimously was the most excited about at the start of the year. Obviously, winter went the way it did, and it took some adjustment, some time to adjust. But adjust they whole-handedly have, right? Now, of course, I think such is the way with Kanavi. When you play around him and his plays and the way that he wants to play the game, there will be series that kind of look like this, where Kanavi wants to Lila. He's bringing the Lila to Korea.
Lila! Kanawe. He's bringing the Kanawe back.
and exactly. And so, I think everyone is gonna the EQ in game 1, right? At bot try. I think 4 minutes into the game, 5 minutes into the game, off the full clear. Just psychotic. And there's not too many other junglers where you would look at that in the LCK and go, yeah, they're gonna take that. But alas, Kanavi is that guy. And yeah, I think on the opposite side, at least with KT, obviously with aiming has been the guy that's stepped up a lot. I'm sure this series, obviously he was ill today, but like this series, good looks for the most part from start to finish. But especially the game 3. That said, I don't care until I see him in playoffs. Until I see him in best of 5s for qualifying to an international tournament with aiming. I don't care how he looks, right? In my mind, burned into it is still the game 5 last year of DK versus T1. I think it was the first time they played each other in the summer playoffs, where he gets hooked by Blitzcrank, just walks up to a Blitzcrank and just gets hooked playing Smolder. Until I see reason to not buy into the anti-clutch narrative, I'm not going to buy into it. Sorry, I'm buying into it rather fully. But at least with Cuz, seeing Cuz come back after the he's just been so quiet for so long. Seeing him be kind of the secondary, almost tertiary engine of putting Kanavi in his place for a change was a nice change of pace, not just for him and for KT, but to see that HLE can actually be stopped a little bit more consistently this season, if they're going to be buying into all of these very, very aggressive, very, very Lila-centric plays. which again, HLE have adapted to very, very well.
Yamato.
I'm gonna give you guys an angle. I think it was very good for Hanwha Life that they lost to KT.
Yeah, no.
The LCK format.
Yeah.
The LCK format. The top two get to fight for one MSI spot, and you want to make sure that KT is in that best of 5 with you. You have much better chances of beating KT in a BO5 than Gen.G in T1.
This wasn't the angle that I thought you were giving us.
No, he's spitting. No, it's true.
Keep going.
And KT with this win, especially like, bro, it was close that they lost today. Like that was dangerous. Like Mr. Fenrir, I don't envy the position you were put in, but like KT were not playing well today.
Okay, hold on. Fenrir was the academy ADK that got pulled up. Aiming was under the weather today, so it wasn't an emergency sub. It was just a normal sub. He literally, this is his first split of tier 2. Tier 2 academy. He was on the one below that team. He was on academy. Then he got pulled up to challengers this year and then gets put into the LCK. You have guys that grind their whole careers and then end up over on Team Heretics as a support. That's Way, right? Or yeah, wherever Way is. I think it's Heretics. So like, that is the fastest call up any career has ever had. And he gets put in there, thankfully, not against a difficult team, but against one of the most aggressive bot lanes in the league in Diablo. So I just wanted to protect Fenrir a little bit.
No, of course. No, I feel pity for the guy. Like anyone, like this is like the Poby saga, you know, like you
get pulled in.
Like it's tough, man. And he warmed up. Like he looked stiff, like he was clicking wrong, but it's like it's normal. It's like to be expected, you know. It's like you know, the biggest nightmare when you're in high school or whatever. It's like you need to hold the presentation in front of the school. You have 10 minutes to prepare. Here you go, bro. It's just like just PTSD, you know. I know for sure. Just with all of that being said, right? Like if KT were beaten by HLE would create distance from everybody else, but then KT would be matched in score against T1. They have a worse match score because like KT play a lot of 2-1s. Like if they didn't win this one, it would be tough. It would be tough. And I think that you know, I can't help but feel that the players were aware of this. Not in the sense, like keep in mind, it's not in the sense that I don't think that they intentionally lost. But I think that if that's circling in your mind, it's the same principle where players that are qualified or aren't going to gain much. Like for example, KC when they lost to Team Heretics, when that match really mattered to us. I'm not sitting there thinking that KC just like win traded, but they drafted like Jace, Varus, Nico, and like some other squishy jungler. Like they had like full range champs, and they just got like clapped by Team Heretics of all teams after having an insane split. It was just because that game didn't fucking matter to them. And in the back of your mind, that shit whispers to you. It whispers to you, and you don't try as hard, and you play Draven Meteor Nocturne, you know? Like, it's just, that's just something that happens sometimes, you know? And I don't walk away from the series thinking that HLE is worse than KT. I'm just looking at what the format is, and HLE will pretty much guarantee themselves at MSI if the top two is KT and HLE. Because as things progress, the additional detail here is that you're going to have a world where the likes of T1, KT, Gen.G fight over one MSI spot because they don't get access to the number one seed due to the format, which creates a very, very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I love that. The gamification portion of it is a pretty sneaky angle that I didn't think of. I thought you were going to say it's good that they lost now, because then it showed, hey, in clutch times we're willing to pick the aggressive thing, and we'll be able to play it. There's no worse that we can play this. No. You know, that was good.
No.
Those were the two big bangers of the week, especially in the LCK. So make sure to go check them out if you haven't already. Also, just a quick shout to Play of the Year. This multi-man flash, the Seraphine ult by Career in D plus KeSPA's matchup earlier. It was out of nowhere against run of play. There's rarely moments in a series where no one expected this thing to happen. And a game-breaking like kind of play that isn't a throw. And we just got to experience one of those. It is the number one play over in the LCK in terms of our Mad movie against Hanwha Life Esports. It was awesome. It was a very awesome moment. If you haven't seen it,
you know what we need? We need someone to use AI for something useful. Okay, and that is to put career on CV Max's face in that video of like him flaming the team.
Yeah.
But instead it's career and just saying all the shit that CV Max said.
This is the Shiwu 0 and 10 game.
It's like, bro, what kind of world are we living in? As D plus, why career being elo held? Like, what? How are we uttering these words? You know, like what's happening, man? What's happening? This team is so goofy, bro. It's the goofiest team ever, man. It's a goofy
D plus. We'll find out very soon where their fate is going to go. They play against the Bros tonight, probably by the time that you watch it.
Huge.
Basically for the spot in the Legend group.
Are you ready for the micro braid, Yamato? Sorry. You forget about that bet. You ready for the micro braids, bro?
Oh yeah, bro win against D plus. Yeah, come on now.
No, if DK beat Bro, that's what you're getting. You're getting micro braids, bro.
What? That's not what we agreed to. I'm on the bro hype train.
Well, that's what you agreed to. If bro finished top 5, then I have to get their logo cornered onto my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they finish 6th, then you get micro braids. That was the agreement.
Bro, I didn't agree to anything. No, bro, run the tape.
He didn't agree to anything.
What?
That was all you, bro.
We floated that out there. And and then we saw the image of Yamato with the micro braids going super hard, by the way. And he never agreed to it, even though it looks great. The only hair bets that we got are you getting the Beyond logo in your hair and us going bald if Giant X somehow make it to the playoffs, which is coming up next.
Los Gigantes.
Dude, you say it better than I do. And then I've got a mullet bet if the Colorado Avalanche win the National Hockey League Stanley Cup with Monty. So those are all the hair bets that are currently in Last Free Nation. Nice try, Jamada. That was crazy.
Okay.
Bro, if I had the hair to do micro braids, I'd be very happy. But I don't think I got the facilities for that, big man. Right?
Nah, bro, your hair's tough, man. It could survive that.
I don't know.
Think so, bro.
Maybe the hair could, but Yamato's head wouldn't. That looks painful. That's short, painful? At least. Well, if you're
depends on the person.
If you're sensitive head, what is that called? I forgot the term for it.
There is a term for it, but I don't know what it is. It also just depends on who's doing the hair. Anyway, it's a minutia thing. It's like proper details.
Bro, did your dads ever cut your hair growing up?
No.
Like once or twice, and then he cut my ear, and I was like, "This is never happening again."
Well, my dad cut my hair, and I have PTSD from that shit because he would like pull my hair as hard as possible. He would like hit me in between, like he would fucking. You know, and I was like, what? I'm like 10 years old, and it's like after it's like you need to shower, and then he takes the loofah and just fucking scrubs me till I bleed. It's like what the fuck is happening, bro? Like, bro, like that the haircut days, bro. I fucking fled them, bro. Those were like the most dreaded days of my life, bro. It's my dad like taking the chance to just fucking beat the shit out of me for cutting my hair for no reason.
There is
all the anger out.
There's two things going on here. There's one, the natural moment where haircuts no longer become like this fearful, painful experience, you know, somewhere in like your teenage years. And then two, I feel like we just had a therapy session with Yamato.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we should keep going. You should send all the kind comments to him. What the fuck?
My dad, till I was like 14 or something. And then when I cut my hair for the first time, I was like, "What? You don't need to like."
You don't have to cry.
You don't need to conquer my scalp. Like you don't need to fucking beat the shit out of me, you know. And it's like, during the entire time you fight back tears. You have like your ears get like watery and shit. Like, bro, if I shed one tear, then oof. Then it's like I get hit with the combo. Like it was terrible.
Yeah, I'll give you something to cry about. Combo. That's what it's going.
Tender-headed.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the term.
I think that's. I'm assuming that's what I was, but I might be like the most hard-headed, but he still like got through. That's how
I don't think you're tender-headed anymore, especially after that story. I think you've got a strong head, hard-headed. There we go. Strong head.
Nice.
Time to remind you about our friends over at Factor. With Factor, I'm hitting my nutrition goals this season without the planning, grocery runs, or cooking. Factor has meals built around your goals, whether that's weight loss, overall nutrition, more protein, or GLP-1 support. For strength and workout recovery, check out Factor's Muscle Pro collection. Fresh, never frozen food keeps it delicious and tasting great. With over 100 rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian, there's always something new to look forward to. Ready in 2 minutes, Factor shops, preps, and cooks and delivers straight to your door, so you have more time for everything you love this spring. Yamato, get in there. Tell the people about how much you love Factor.
Honestly, like cooking yourself and going to the grocery store and doing all that shit is the equivalent of getting a haircut from my dad. When you can just get it done professionally. It's just, like the amount of hours you need to spend to find a recipe, to find the ingredients, to clean, brother, bro. You're investing 5 hours to eat for 5 minutes, and then it's like you mess something up, you put too much salt, and like you grief, and you don't even save money, like, bro, groceries are expensive. And somehow, a Factor has made it accessible, It's like, in terms of microwave meals, I think the first instinct I have is I'm going to be skeptical, microwave meals, how good can it be? Honestly, it doesn't taste like any other microwave meal that I've ever tried. And I think the coolest thing about this product, right, is produce is local, right? And you can't have like Factor Meals is a global company. They can't have like one location of salmon, one location of chicken, just ship all over the world. Doesn't make any sense. But the fact that I've tried it all over the world, I've tried it in Germany, I've tried it in Sweden, I've tried it in Austin, Texas with Dom, who was the first one who bragged so much about it because he was like, I eat it every day. You need to eat it. It's so good. I get my protein, bro. I'm working out, getting my protein. And in every location, it was blessed. So I recommend Factor Meals wholeheartedly.
All right. There you have it. So make sure to head on over to factormeals.com/powerspike50 off and use code powerspike50 off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscription only while supplies last until 9/27/2026. That's factormeals.com/powerspike50 off and use code powerspike50 off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscription. Thanks to our friends over at Factor. That was a good transition. All right, we're starting to run up on some time. So we're going to go straight into a Galaxy Brain Club, as many leagues around the world are moving towards playoffs. So let's dive into that. This week's Galaxy Brain Club, it's the LoL Esports playoffs. All right, let's start with the LCS. They finished up their regular season with the matchup that was supposed to be of the undefeateds, but Team Liquid tripped up the week before. It was TL versus Cloud9 and then FlyQuest up against Lion Gaming. One surprising result with an upset victory by FlyQuest over Lion, big talked about was the Nasus jungle that Griffin proposed on Twitter like 2 months ago. And then the opposite side, it was Cloud9 taking care of business. So, Jamada, wanted to get your thoughts here on how you feel about this top 3 going into playoffs. I guess top 4 going into playoffs.
I don't feel happy with C9 overall. Even though they're 7-0, they've just not really inspired me with their gameplay throughout a lot of this split. And I think there are, improvement points for sure. Sven is dying a little bit less on mid-wave, right? I do think that the consistency of Blabber's decisions in tandem with, whether it's Vulcan or maybe APA, is getting more consistent again. But compared to that winter split that we just had, right, excluding Brazil, it's still a night and day difference. And obviously there's loads of things you can attribute to that, right? Teams have been together for longer, they're getting used to each other, they're building their own ideas of meta, and all of these different things are happening simultaneously. And obviously C9 had to go through this big reshift after Brazil, I think, mentally. But that said, at least this TL series was one where I walked away from it feeling happy about their gameplay overall. And I think, at least for me, the way that I look at them now is, it's obvious, and we've been saying it for a while now. Hands-wise, they're not all there. The mechanical roller coaster, we go back to that metaphor a lot now, I feel. But it feels like they're not quite high enough to ride it all of the time. So for me, what I want to keep on seeing from them is just creative angle looks, right? In terms of how they approach team fights. Constantly trying to set up Thanatos for angles. Just basically things that allow them to actually have a little bit more individual expression that bounces off of one another. Because I feel like if they're trying to do, like, honestly, just simple Route 1 League of Legends front to back, I just don't think they've got it in the tank right now. I think compared to the other teams in the league where, Berserker is popping off every other game in terms of team fighting, where, Core Yeon, right? Had a rough weekend of it, obviously into C9, but a lot of how TL has played throughout much of the split has been Jose Diodo as the driving factor in the early game, and then relying on their bot lane to come in the mid game, and really take over team fights. And I feel like for C9, their identity is going to have to start being baked into effectively creative, like, playmaking, as opposed to we can just set up around this objective because this is what our comp does, and we will just win. I don't see them as the team that, funnily enough, can play simple League of Legends right now. And typically, it's like the only way that I see them succeeding is running, but if you see them walking, then they're gonna trip. It's odd. It's really, really, really odd. But that's how I feel about, at the very least, C9 going into playoffs.
They're playing fast. What do you make of the top of the charts here over in the LCS, Yamato?
I think that still, I kind of feel like it's a two-horse race in how Lion, they're. I don't know how easily they'll be able to ramp up, especially when they are doing the switch back and forth with the top lane. There's a very clear lack of consistency there, and it doesn't seem to be, their ideas don't seem to be enacted, but they have enough credibility for me to trust that they're going to just lock in the BO5s regardless of the loss against FlyQuest. I think C9, their biggest issue is always going to be just mechanically they are very predictable, because it bleeds into how they draft. The expectations for what they are going to bring to the table, I think in a BO5, their biggest problem is that, if they are in Game 4 and Game 5, how can they set themselves up for success in terms of what the recipe is? I think that Dom is trying to cook so damn hard with flex picks to set up counter picks for top lane, and he's, figuring out ways to put his boy Blabberoni Franzoni on some tanks, which is nice, when he's looking in Sejuani, bro, I feel comfortable. I'm like, okay, this is going to be easy. Something simple in the mid lane doesn't require you to squeeze too much. And I think that C9 is blessed in the fact that both Thanatos and Vulcan are playing quite well, I would say. But I think that their peak and their potential is definitely not higher than some of the other teams. I don't think it's higher than Team Liquid if everyone gets their shit together on Team Liquid. I don't think it's higher than FlyQuest. I don't think it's higher than Lion either, of course. But these teams are so far from playing from what their potential could be, especially Team Liquid, that I think that C9 for this split is still a very, very strong contender because their fundamentals and how they play, in regards to, the map and where to be, I think they're quite sharp. But sometimes in team fights, they get exposed. They're like, damn, we're eating in here. Come on now. Let's not do that. And let me just jump on Team Liquid. Bro, they need to recall their agent. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not gonna do your boy super dirty. But
oh no,
Team Liquid have now gone. They went from Pioshik to Umti to Morgan. Like my brother, bro. Like you can't be like the retirement home of like bang average players out of the LCK. Like in terms of the process of acquiring players, I just don't understand. I could understand if a team like Team Liquid went for a player like Teddy. Why can I understand Teddy? Because he's had insanely high peaks in his career. And for him to be capable of busting that out, I think can be very likely. Like Teddy has top 3 splits, he has weaker splits, at least it's been there. What was the argument? Like when they brought in Umti, I didn't see it, right? They found success, okay, but it was obvious that in the long run, that is going to be the problem that we saw in Summer and FlyQuest. And then they went to the next year, they didn't address that problem, and it was...
Maokai Sejuani duty. That was it. He played 2 champs for like the whole year.
Yeah, like he was what was holding them back, and it was obvious already in that off season that coming into the next year that's going to be another issue for them. And Inspire was just running him along, and Blabber was doing the same thing. And then eventually they made the change. It was too late, but then they went with the same approach with Morgan. It's like I'm with you with the Code JJ and Yeon point that these guys are not playing as good as they should be. I think they've been quite disappointed. They should be the best bot lane in the league easily, bro. How many years do they have under their belt? They should easily be the number 1 bot lane in the league, and they are not even in the discussion right now, bro. Like Berserker Isles. I'm more hyped about Berserker and Isles than Code JJ and Yeon, and that's a problem, bro. Like Quid, Code JJ, and Yeon should have been off season 1, bro. And if we were in December right now and that was announced, I'm like, damn, they should be running the league. And we've accepted the mediocrity from them because of their results. But it's kind of crazy that they're here and that the best performing player is Jose Diodo. And all of this to circle back to Morgan. Morgizi, bro. Mr. Morgan. Bro, you are not performing in this league, bro. Like, you are not offering anything in particular. I don't understand this signing at all. And I am quite disappointed. It hurts me to say this because I just see, like, dGon being in pain. He's like, these are my boys.
That's the Lord.
I'm sorry. But Morgizi is not doing well on Team Liquid, man. Mr. Morgan.
I don't know. I feel like specifically in this Cloud9 throw fest that basically happened, he got targeted, right? There were a lot of the dives under the tower where they spent a lot of resources and it was up to Team Liquid to make a play somewhere else. Maybe there is more communication that needs to come from Quid, or do that every time. Quid and Jose Diodo to like give him a heads up, like, hey, you got to drop this wave or whatever, because he's trying to scrap everything. But this one specifically felt like I give him a pass. But you're right. Especially when you draw the line of the signings that have happened recently from Team Liquid. You could have just got Impact. Could you just not get Impact and he would have done the same thing that's happening here? Like, it feels like maybe there's another gear that's missing. You hope there's another gear that's missing. Otherwise, this Team Liquid roster is destined to be, I
hope he's
passenger.
Cheap. I hope for Team Liquid's sake that the boy is cheap, Like, if his agents were spinning, bro, Lord Morgan, the popularity, bro, the bro fans are going to come over. Like, if he was spinning tricks, fucking doing mad DJ tracks with drops and shit and convince TL to drop a bag of Morgan, then I applaud them, I applaud.
Quick thoughts on FlyQuest upset over Lion, Yamato.
It ties into what I said earlier. I do think that FlyQuest is a team that likes to play. Lion is a team that likes to play very fucking slow, and FlyQuest is very sporadic. And some
Zoomers, baby.
It's a player that has gone so under the radar, I think. And I think that he should be even in the conversation of a potential MVP together with Jose Diodo, Vulcan, is Gakos. I think this guy is just really damn good at the game. He's really, really good. I think his impact in every game is just immense. And just watching him over the span of the split, I think this guy is just a menace. I think that he gives them a foundation of stability. And that is always like in advantageous positions. And the only thing that is holding him back from doing more is usually his champion choice. And you can see it's like when he's playing like Sion or whatever, they lose. But in the context of like if he's playing like a Rumble game, I'm like, damn, he's gonna fry. I think Gakos, like I'm looking at the NALCS through the lens of who do I think will be imported to the LEC next. And I think Gakos
That's
will be
crazy.
a target. MKOI and Gakos next year. I can see that happen easily. This is LEC tier 2 right here, bro. That's what it is.
Damn. Fnatic Gakos could be happoning according.
Don't do that to him.
No, don't do that.
No. Hey man, you called it.
Let's not jail him.
You lay down the framework. I'll give
send
you
some
the
pro
product.
players to Fnatic, bro.
Yeah.
All right, no, we're good. We're good. All right, you could have Morgan, Morgan and Umpty. Damn, Morgan, Umpty, Fnatic. Crazy.
Honestly,
more jail, more hell time for upset. That feels terrible. Speaking of Fnatic, because we had to make sure we got Fnatic got a shout because we're talking playoffs, and they're not. Oh, they're not in it. Let's look towards LEC playoffs. They start up next week. Best of fives moving on forward. What do you expect here from next week's action? Only 2 series because we got the 2 teams having the bye in the LEC. Jamada, get in there. What do you make of Vitality, MKOI, and KC versus G2?
You know what? Vitality MKOI is the one that I'm most interested in. I think that G2 KC is going to be quite one-sided in favor of G2 for honestly a laundry list of reasons, but more so to do with Vitality's performance in the EWC qualifiers. Now, Yamata, I know you was watching those games, so you'll have a little bit more to say. I haven't actually found the time to catch up on those games. I've been very busy over the last few. But the fact that they dropped out to the lower bracket, okay, no problem. But they lost to Shifters. And it was a 2-0. And now, normally, I'm not the kind of guy to like overreact, hyperbolize, stances takes. But they also lost best of 3 to MKOI already. Now, granted, not on stage, not in the studio, but I'm looking at this almost in this weird way, despite of the triumph of the regular season, as kind of a soft bounce back in terms of the games that we've actually seen from them now. Because I want to know if those online games are just like a case of like you got us. Very similar into how you look at probably Sentinels in the LCS, but obviously it's flipped, right? Went all the way in their qualifiers, but as far as regular season performance is concerned, left a lot to be desired by comparison. Because otherwise, I feel like this matchup without that lens should just be Vitality through and through, right? I think that the top side is something where Naknako has a creative enough champion pool that even if MKOI decide to actually throw Mo in a bone and give him the weird champions, which he doesn't really, always even find success in these days, Naknako will handle himself fine, even in the weirder matchups. Like there was the Shyvana top a couple of weeks ago, and then he played it again against KC. I know in the qualifiers too, where they lost. So even things like that. Oh, my mic is trying to escape. I know that Naknako will be fine. And then the bot side, I think, is just going to be a slaughter. I think Kazi and Fleshy are just going to have their way with Super and Alvaro from start to finish. and that will be my big concern. So I feel like the only bailout point maybe for MKOI is just mid lane. Jojo is still one of the best, if not. Obviously, I think it always goes back and forth depending on who you say, but within the very tight top 3 race for best laners inside the league, right? And so if they can bounce off that MKOI and the very traditional Jojo's got a lead, let's leverage it, let's move to bot, let's move to top kind of style and just keep it simple, stupid, then there's a series to be had. But I would still say, like, in 5 games, I could see MKOI taking 1 in the state that they're in right now. And I just think that the side lanes are too uncompetitive compared to where Vitalities have been at and what they've shown us so far.
Well, that was what I was going to say. I feel like keep it simple, stupid, and Myrwn's your top laner. Like, my man's loves all of the spicy picks, especially when you get to best of 5 and the champ pools have to get bigger. And we've seen it both work and backfire. But if that's your guy, that's what's going to happen in the draft. Yamato, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
Final
I think that's always been, my big problem with MKOI has forever been that there's been a true lack of buy-in oftentimes into Myrwn's pool. And it feels like seasonally they go into it, right? Like, more recently, they've been giving him the weird angles again, right? He's been playing, he played like a game of Zeri. He's one of the first tops in Europe besides Broken Blade to play Shen, right? Obviously, again, there was the Shyvana. There was even I say random by like Galio into Rumble in the EWC qualifier. They give him these champions that not a lot of people are playing, but I think they just need to do it more of the range tops, more of the like out there bruisers, and just let him have fun and give him resources, right? Yeah. Especially again, if Super is not doing the super thing in team fights because he's falling behind in lane, then I feel like you're just going to be stripped for options, especially in a meta like this where bot lane. If your bot lane gets ahead, you're going to just dominate the mid game. You will. You're just going to have prio. You're going to be able to move to every objective first. And the game gets ridiculously hard. But the X factor to that is always, do I have a Thanos top laner to throw, into the middle of 3 or 4 people to actually change the state of the game? And I feel like that's the philosophy that MKOI need to buy into with Myrwn, because he's the kind of player that can actually impact the game heavily if he's got resources.
Yeah. What is the big, for you, Yamato, what is the big storyline that you're looking at in this 16 playoff? Knowing that, I'm not sure if this means a lot to the teams or whatever, but KC and G2 are already qualified for EWC. That is your first round upper bracket matchup. And so you've got both playing for the LEC title, playing for the MSI slot, which you can only get if you make it to the finals, and then the EWC slot. If it's KC and G2 already in the finals, the round 2 matchup is already the qualifier. So it can be all over the place here. It is kind of exciting knowing that there are multiple things to qualify for here, Yamato.
Yeah, I think this entire playoffs hinges on Vitality to be as good as they've shown. But there is a couple of concerns, right, that are like legitimate criticisms and potential like question marks, is that they are playing against a field of a lot of experience, collective experience in terms of what the core is, right? Already the fact that Vitality is heading into BO5s, some of the drafts they've done, I don't know how they're going to look like if they manage to get to a game 4, game 5. What the hell are they going to cook up then? Like, it might just look plain damn silly. And my homie Pad, has done some silliness. I still remember that Casey game that he did, the Casey game 3, bro, with the Kisanta Annie Jin, bro. Like, I remember the Rise Lulu thing that they did the previous year. Like, I remember some of these moments that are unforgettable, like the Seraphim Braum bot lane with the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. The odds of this shit happening is way higher in BO5s because practice is going to be a lot more specific. It's going to be catered towards you. But in terms of gameplay, they've showcased to me that they are the second best team in the league. But I worry that the lack of the BO5 experience as a group and their drafting, I feel like this is going to be something that weighs them down. But being in a position where your gameplay is better than the other teams, and you've proven that, and you have individual players that are peaking, like Naku to me is the MVP of the regular split, easily. Knock is just the MVP for me. Dry, no problem. And I think that Kazi is performing super good. Fleshy and Linsas are playing better and better. So the big storyline for me is just Vitality. Because everything else should be predictable. Like Na'Vi and GX ain't doing shit to any of the teams in the top 4. They're losing in first round. I think that G2 beats KC every day of the week. They are just better than them because their jungle support is just better. And I think that KC is going to get to the team fights where they're going to execute better than MKOI because they give you those chances. Even though MKOI can have better map movement with Elioya and Alvaro. Like Elioya would have to play God mode every single game for them to beat KC. And that's just too much to ask because KC is still a pretty damn good team. So everything else is predictable. It's just Vitality. Vitality needs to be good for this to be exciting. So all eyes on them, honestly, because everything else is just easy peasy.
Yeah. The matches will be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we will have our first MSI qualifier on Monday at 8 a.m. I guess it'll be 5 p.m. local time there. Right? 5 p.m. local time? I'm not sure actually what time it'll be there. But like maybe it's 3. What time zone is Berlin in? CET? CST?
CST.
The summertime. CST.
Summertime.
Yeah, okay. So 5 p.m. It'll be at 5 p.m. After the first 2 qualifiers. So a quick turnaround for figuring out which team is going to make it on through. But the way that Yamato is making it is going to be Vitality versus G2, and then we'll see who makes it on in after that. Real quick shout out here as we are up on time. LPL, what do you want people to look out for? Jamada.
Gosh, I mean the thing is, with the LPL, they've got the weird like lock-in part first, right? Where the middle of the top of the pack and the bottom of the top of the pack play each other. I would say, honestly, LNG WE, weirdly. I've been hearing a lot of good talk about LNG, so whilst I haven't had my eyes on them, that would actually, weirdly, out of this next batch of matches, be one that I would say keep your eyes peeled for. Otherwise, once the bracket is actually formed, my eyes are on JDG again, man. Like, this team, I want to see them be successful, and I think they've got what it takes to do it. And again, it's easy. It's easy to put faith into a Tabe roster.
I love that. Yamato.
Yeah, I like the call-outs. Just to keep it different, I think there's a chance that LNG beats WE. Like, I think that's real. And LNG is a team that has been in hell. So does that. And shout out to Ultra Prime and OMG for being done with their year. It's incredible that you're a major region team and you have played your final game of the year. They're going on a 6-month vacation. So if you need someone to do like some extra work around the house or something, you need someone to carry furniture, call some of the Ultra Prime OMG players. They are not going to be busy.
Yeah, definitely not as we move closer and closer to the stakes that matter over in the LPL and across the world. Only league that's not going to be in playoffs quite yet will be the LCK. An exciting time for LoL Esports as we will have all of that covered here on Power Spike. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and make sure to check out the LFN Herald, our new newsletter across esports, gaming, sports, and nerd culture, where you don't miss a single thing across our network. It's going to be stuff that you want to see with some of the voices that you all know and love about topics that maybe you didn't even know that you knew and love. But stay up to date now. Make sure to sign up on the link below in the description. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next week as we have our first MSI participant locked in by the LEC, and we grind through some of the Legend and Rise group rankings in the LCK. Plus, we see if Dom's journey continues on undefeated in the spring. Bye-bye.